usual crime types, the seeking out of someone different, and destruction of someone different is pretty much all that someone that inbred and messed up requires to alleviate, essentially. Though they'll want to go on doing it again after a ceremony or a church service or two, be out looking for the next one. So it's messed up for the Gospels to be a paradigm for detecting a martyr, because as discussed, you have worse than extenuating circumstances in the Gospel of Mark. You have friendly terms used like handed over, which amount to kidnapped and passed on to the guards. The Abrahamic traditions are very honouring of this test of loyalty. Christopher Hitchens spoke about it with repudiation. He referred to his children as the closest thing that he will ever know that resembles immortality, and said, if I was told to do what all monotheists do and say, yeah, I'll gut my kid to show my love of God, then I would tell them, no, fuck you. But you have that this narrative was honoured. You even have them turning back going, but you see, don't you see why this was such a clever test? Because Isaac didn't actually get killed. God spared his life. And it's like, well, there are 1,001 other loyalty tests that could have been used that wouldn't have involved traumatizing Isaac whatsoever. And you also have this attribute of omniscience, where God knows everything, and therefore putting anyone to the test is like it's like watching a rerun of The Bold and the Beautiful. No one does it. So yeah, I see a parallel between them going, well, Jesus' sexual health identity is a taboo subject. The church refuses to discuss it. But the murdered Jesus love is to be shared with everyone. It's good for everyone. But his sexual health identity remains classified. And it seems like bisexuals can hook up with anyone. Just like we're trying to say that the blood of Christ can wash and save anyone, irrespective of their sexual health identity. And my interest is exploring how and why we have these cheap write-ups about the health of the community, statistically based, where they go, well, bisexuals are collapsing all over the place and more prone to mental breakdowns, and it's been written as though it were innate to the community. It's trying to. Right there, you see, I call it like the the John 3:16 head fuck, which is like John 3:16 is an idea about this character being sent, this mistreated character, and as you find in Mark's Gospel, you can't rule that he was anything but kidnapped, made to suffer all the emotional responses of a kidnap, falsely accused of being the king of the Jews. He does not reply yes or no. He doesn't say, yes, I am the king of the Jews. He doesn't say, no, I'm not the king of the Jews. And then they proceed to have him executed anyway. And what I'm trying to say is, if in the back in these people's sex drives is like, well, our proud origins, and those proud origins are about how a brother, the stupendous of the brother killing is his brother, and then the surprise of the incestuous surprise left to boggle your mind with true prospects of either Cain awaiting the deliverance of more sons and daughters from Adam and Eve, so that he could have incest with someone other than his mother, or whether Cain got in on assisting his father Adam, and Cain and Adam were both impregnating Eve, and that's what started the expression "good evening," because every eve or every nightfall there was just be it her spouse or her firstborn son, Eve was just getting pumped. Now that support evolution, and how well humbly said, there was a remark that, well, evolution, they say it's still just a theory, but it was pointed out in the same vein that it's still just a theory that Earth is rotating around the sun. It's just a theory for which there's so much evidence, and that further experiments can be designed on the active assumption of the veracity of these demonstrated theories. So, the want for there to be experiments that counter or fundamentally change and force the rectification or amendment of things that have been stated as really well established theories in science. They're not. It's interesting how it's always like the religious have it in mind that, well, it's going to be their explanation or ours. Like a footy match. It's no, it wouldn't be if something like the Earth rotating around the sun were to be falsified. It would be falsified by some other cosmological account, not God swirling his fingertips in a pond and skimming a rock along the top of a pond and going, there you go, there's a solar system. But these they get taken for granted, these creation narratives, and I'm saying that if you're acting in a role where you are a critical anything, and your moral compass or your work ethic or your sense for describing events or people ultimately rolls back onto these theological narratives, only they've become so second nature that even you can scarcely remember them unless you're in a Freemason chant fest or whatever, then they're not just going to constitute prejudice. They're going to, sorry man, they're not just going to constitute prejudice. They're going to fuck your results. And not only that, but you'll find that an appealing relief, because fucking a result is at least well, it's not incestuous, is it? It's like you'd go home cheering to the Masonic church. Like I fucked the results of a sociological study. I'm so happy. Like, it wasn't my cousin, it wasn't my mum. It was just the results of a study, and I fucked it good. I fucked it really good. And then the other Freemasons would be like, smooth operator. Like, that's pretty smooth. You've gone all the way, you've advanced our ancestry from like fucking one another to fucking study results. How does it feel? Oh, it's well alleviating. So that sick origin story, I think, accounts for why you'll get PEDs in certain scenarios, why you'll get, and you can say, why doesn't it happen to everyone? But a variable there I would submit is the degree by which the theology is insisted as a factual truth, and the degree to which the theology is romanticized, and the degree to which an adverse face and an offset temper or mood is the reaction to any questions of a critical nature or a critical inquiry, that are scrutinous of the prospective truths of the doctrine, and yet frolic around being really friendly with kids and dancing with an extra leg and making a painting for the Queen. So if you're dancing around kids with a third leg where the loincloth would go, and you've got a painting getting hung up in Buckingham Palace, like, get ready, because the next move is about to be Ped Fashions. Yeah, Ped Fashions on YouTube. So, anyway, I call it the origins of the Abrahamics. This origin story unite Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and some of their hang-offs, of which Freemasonry is one. But what I'm saying it does is it makes the mind look to another, like, in the way that you see on, like, on shows like True Detective. There's a recruitment attempt, it's like the way they approach Jesus in Mark's Gospel is a bit like it's a bit like the Freemasons having all their doctrines secret, so like they do, and none of us know anything about them. And then someone running up to Jesus going, "Are you the Grand Poobah?" Like, just because he had long hair and was speaking poetically in groups of people, small clusters of people, and they charge him with being the Grand Poobah, and he's not even sure what the title means. Because yeah, if you like, I find it common that yeah, criminology, whether it be in fiction or in factual write-ups, and psych, or the science of the mind, become corollary avenues of interest to the mind that's still thankful for theology. And so just both those avenues of interest are indicators that, well, to me they're proofs that you've really got to readdress what's in these stories. And it's worse than a case of saying, you know, that's the creation story, people just have to live with it, sad but true. It's like, well, not even that. I'm trying to learn more about the Aboriginal rainbow serpent. Sounds like that serpent sounds like a mad diva. So I'll try and go to the Tet Embassy soon and see if I can get us an interview. But yeah, I've spoken already about how I think these romanticized inbreeders behave. Is that they go, well, we're calling this state of existence perfect. How can it be perfect? It's inbreeding, and their instincts go. Stop asking tricky questions. Let's look out into the community and find someone to execute. Good idea. And the structure worked like that, basically. Okay, now I'll be back. So, maybe some of you will say that I'm putting the hard word out on theologians, but really, I'm wondering whether the person who said theology is the study of nothing gave theologians another sense of like, oh shit, let's make a run for it type thing, because if they went off and did the Harry Bolt again, because okay, I've discussed the historicity and like I've had a go at trying to delve into what might have been going on, approximations of what might have been going on actually historically when these texts were written by order of kingdoms. But yeah, there might be elements of the kill Cain again and again, repeating, because when they talk about, Christians talk about redemption, and they were created in this perfect image, and they although we've had the discussion about the perfect image, and it turned out to have been about incest, multi-generational incest, homicide within a blood-related tribe, and then back to some more incest. So they want to get back to this, and like. And then the utilitarian function of Jesus was, as the Christians, evangelical Christians will have it. I used to try to listen to Lisa Evangelist. No, wait, she helped me. Lisa Evangelista. She helped me remember to watch SBS after church sessions. But you've got to wonder, why do they want this image back? If this image refers to a state of affairs where there's a lot of incest going on and homicide between family members, yet they think that that image is so pure that they want to make a second attempt at getting back to making it the existential state of affairs for everyone. And this time they're not going to let any apples get in their way. So they figure if they do a murder on Jesus, then that will finally redeem them, and they can go back to incest and killing their brother and fucking their mother and having a batch of kids, and then the kids fucking each other. So I'm saying, like, this creation narrative, it offers a whole, it absconds a lot of duties that I would think are fair to insist constitute the onus of any purported creation story. One would be that it has the intellectual ability to overturn the best theory in place at the moment for our origins, which is evolution. You know, you've even got evolution squaring up with Aboriginal writings about we are part of the land. We owe our lives to the land and thankfulness to the land. And now you've got evolutionary biologists confirming that DNA strands can link family lineages to trees and such and such. So just doing a comparative look into Aboriginal religious ideas from yonder year compared with the Abrahamic tales of incest, you'll even find that modern science is tipping its hat to, well, the Aborigines just having an instinctive sixth sense for this connection to the land. So yeah, I've suggested that Jesus might have been, it irked them. It becomes evidence more so in the later Gospels that people were irked by his public ability, like his ability to talk to groups and his people skills and what have you. So, but then just to look into that, well, what level of public dissertation do you expect to come from select inbreeders who are, you know, copulating with their relatives and then ordering random executions just to keep everyone afraid? It's clear they kept everyone afraid because they kept everyone believing in a flat, four-cornered earth. These people saw the same sunset, the same sun during the daytime. They had round pupils like we do. They saw the round moon at night. They saw the shadow of the earth on the moon. They saw all these same things, and yet whatever it was, if it was a Sunday morning ritual for a man to make a speech off an unraveled piece of manuscript, that once unraveled was in the shape of a rectangle, then you know, to me it's a sign of yeah, poor literacy and enslavement combined, and that the people really feared and had good reasons to really fear the authorities who would read from these texts to them. And I've suggested that, yeah, being inside the kingdom and then getting a blowy from an auntie or a cousin or a sister or a mother or whoever, the experience being also disgusting, then compelling them to go out and to the perch of the tower and look over into the population and go, you know, let's execute that one over there, or let's hang that one over there. And, you know, that the people quite possibly lived in fear of execution for reasons that they weren't even able to understand, driving them, instilling them with so much fear that speeches about the shape of the earth corresponding to the shape of the unraveled manuscripts that these preachers were holding was in fact overriding their senses concerning their own basic observations of the shape of the moon and the sun and their eyes and the shadow of the earth on the moon, and etc., etc. Yeah, so my view is, plus there's racial overtones. What was the skin color of the one man and one woman placed in the garden? How were they able to give birth to? My suggestion, in the interest of literal and logical recognition and honesty, is that if you're an Advent convert and affirmer of the Abrahamic origins tale of comprehensive incest and homicide in the family, and then more incest and more homicide in the family, and then Jesus is a mantle on the, you know, like a deer hunter who shoots a deer and then puts the deer's head up in the game room above the pool table. You know, if you go, well, we've expanded out of incest, now we're shooting people like the Lord and Savior. Okay, well, if you believe in those logistics, then when you do try to investigate a situation, I think you project more than you discover. And I submit the process be redubbed an incestigation. Which is where whatever comprehension of logistics or Holmesian Arthur Conan Doyle, once you've eliminated the impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be closer to the truth. Like, here's my bus. Yeah, so starting with, for instance, if you read the book Atheism, The Case Against God, it gets into talking about knowledge types, differentiating between propositional knowledge, knowledge by acquaintance, and knowledge by experience. Gossip is almost a type of language that is like a kissing the ass of knowledge by acquaintance, which can potentially be an form of expression with certain respectability about it, but Whereas, you know, Hosanna in the highest to being inbred from a garden. Gossip will be loved. Gossip will be paid for if you leave them long enough. And it makes a reference to a very, very comprehensive book that I owned but didn't finish reading, called Logic: An Introduction by Lionel Ruby. And so propositional knowledge is knowledge that you're able to comprehend via the exchange of propositional knowledge, whether a priori or a posteriori, which means without independent of empiricism, to even after the offering of some empiricism, a posteriori. Then knowledge by experience is like having propositions won't adequately convey knowledge by experience. No matter how many times you're told how to ride a bike, everyone knows that first time where they finally realize they've got hold of, and they're holding their balance on a bike, and well, it's a moment where words aren't of terribly important. You just get the knack. I really love George Smith for that book. I think it was his best in the trilogy, and it should be. Its title is a play on words, because you'll have people who have heard the definition of negative atheist come forward and say, well, hang on, you just said atheism means the absence of belief in God. He admits in the introduction that he should have probably called it atheism, the case against belief in God. But he starts by citing Psalms chapter 14 verse 1. The fool says in his heart that there is no God. Psalms is full of a lot of hysterical, infanticide, smashing fetuses against rocks. It's any wonder that anyone that's read the book of Psalms in a church would want to go out to protest an abortion. If they were true to their reading of Psalms, they would want to go there to offer extra hands in throwing babies against rocks. So they truly fail to convince me that they're making anything but incest. But anyway, I digest. I'm drinking my energy drink. Yes, so that it's like parasitic, this narrative, this origins narrative. And look at the sort of religions it befriends within this trilogy of, you've got Allah is the one true God, and Muhammad is his prophet. And Muhammad, look at the mercy and the sense of blessed mercy of Muhammad. He keeps captive a 6-year-old girl, but only begins to have sex with her once she had reached the ripe and mature and ready to go age of 9, which is to say he raped a 9-year-old girl. But yeah, and he was a conqueror. So like this Genesis story, it doesn't explain where all the different ethnicities come from, nor all the languages. It doesn't explain why the species didn't go extinct well before our birth. Don't you find it more relaxing to imagine a mixture of random forces and non-random selection in a state of interplay, and stars colliding with swamps and organisms starting to grow human-like or more advanced organs and limbs and neurals and like, why don't you think that's a better starting picture? Your mind's clear. You're not thinking of your ancestor who rooted your mum. You're free of the embarrassment. Thank you, and you. And since there are no real good reasons to believe that any of these accounts had any truth value to them in the first place, beyond the fact that they were once treasured by kingdoms that would have you executed for questioning them, and then later, when presumably the castle inbred themselves out of history, poor people with no education discover these manuscripts left over and think that they've made an Encyclopedia Britannica discovery of a lifetime. And despite the authoring kingdom family being dead, inbred to death, the discoverers of the manuscripts elevate them as, wow, what amazing tales. And that they came about to our acquisition that way. Once again, I'm in favor of them being preserved. I'm just, it's classification, But if I had it my way, there would be, well, it already does show on commercial TV, like, warning, this show contains supernatural themes. Though, once again, they're trying to be like, I think, scheming off Hollywood with that definition. Beyond nature. Well, yeah. Oop. Now I have a scallop. Someone has left a scallop here on my sill, on my windowsill. Awesome. I love sill. I'll be back. So for this project about the lining up of and killing of Jesus, it's not even really written like the necessity of it has been stressed. It's written like the screwing over of someone who... So the ambiguity, which I think is perennial to this day here, is that people wonder, well, what... Am I at risk of being deemed against the crown? On the other hand, you've got, thank the ambiguous energy that some have called God for things like the Chasers' War on Everything, showing the Queen with photoshopped boobs out. Because people are left in the lurch about what is meant by against the crown, and if it's ongoing, is it pressure that you nominate the right religion amongst the religious right, then that's a bit unfair. Religious discrimination and the significance of it, which is one topic I want to discuss in my book for sure. But yeah, comparing here to America on that front, I listen a lot to Hitchens' journalistic comparisons, and there is more that you can say in terms of going, well, yeah, so what, I've got a Sex Pistols God Save the Queen shirt, and the lyrics are God Save the Queen, she's not a human being. Yeah, so what, David Bowie wrote a song called Queen Bitch in 1972. She's so swishy in her satin and tat, her frock coat and bibbity boppity hat. Oh God, I could do better than that. And he sung that, and then she goes to offer him a knighthood, and he declines, and classily so, he declines with a question, which I think was a counterbalance question to hers. What greater source of inspiration for us than to turn to the imperishable truths that we can find in that treasure house called the Holy Bible. And Bowie's offered a knighthood. Would you like a knighthood, David Bowie? And he says, why would I be interested in that? And leaves it at that. No, why would I be interested in that? And so looking at it it's that, well, paradoxes like the more different the person, but yet able to get along with the people, yet not be of royal bloodlines, yet not be of royalty upbringing and training, yet not be, what the Life of Brian does, Monty Python's Life of Brian does, and does well, is that it illustrates just the concept of someone just being an individual who is just trying to get by, and because of the cultural phenomenology of that time in history, he winds up getting branded the Messiah. John Cleese was asked to sit with two religious clergymen who wanted to debate him that the life of Brian is offensive to and disrespectful to Jesus, but John Cleese points out that as far as his Christian schooling went, he was left feeling both angry and disappointed because of this same topic I've talked about, the veracity of the Gospels. And he learns about Bertrand Russell, who I would say is like, you'll learn more, and like if you substitute going to 1 year of high school for reading Bertrand Russell, you'll learn more. He had earned the title Lord Russell later in life, and he's published like the ABC of relativity to try to make Einstein's special and general theories of relativity more easily comprehensible to us commoners. And but yeah, like John Cleese learns that, well, these clergymen, what they don't come forward saying is they're absolutely investing their unquestioning trust in the veracity of texts for which there is no clear veracity. The authors of which I can't even be sure of what their authors' names were. We can't be sure of exactly when they were written. And he talks about what it's like to go through that process and then become very angry that your schooling constituted this 10th rate of platitudes, and for which he sought to create his own outlet for that experience of deception through works in comedy. But yeah, things being misheard and misconstrued. Jesus on a hill giving a talk, and people at the back going, "What did he just say? Blessed what?" Because I'm quite sure he said, "Blessed are the cheese makers," and then the other guy next to him says, "Well, the cheese makers, it's supposed to be taken metaphorically. It's surely it applies to all manufacturers of dairy products." And it essentially, what's controversial about it, I think, is that it shows how just someone with a different mind is confused into being asked by his society to conform and fit into an archetypal role, deemed prophetic by those who are piously, devoutly religious, and the person meanwhile is just going, "Huh? Fucking what? What the fuck do you mean?" And that's why I like the life of Brian. So I've talked about fallaciousness spurring on from them, whether an external based observation or alternative method is used by Gary Cannes or Roger. Just these two principles as force multipliers, religious principles. Seeing is believing, and hearing is believing. Entangled as interwoven as a DNA structure of DNA. Things like, so their observation of me laughing at, let me say, for instance, say I laugh at a scene in South Park. Now, yeah, like I can think back to speeches in public where Trey and Matt have appeared on acid at awards, and Matt dressed in like a frock or a skirt or something. And they've said, "Yeah, blame us for everything that goes wrong in the world. Just blame us. It's all our fault." Their own disclaimer warns against the channel's content being watched, as does mine, though it requires updation, and I'm not being permitted to, oddly enough, YouTube are not permitting me the ability to audit my own channel profile paragraph. But yeah, what I was going to say, so if you can get a sense of contrast with this idea of it's dangerous to wander out with these as your force multipliers when making judgments. You can see on the lawns of courts, even in the states, despite separation between church and state laws, there are courthouses that have the 10 Commandments on the lawn. And then there have been initiatives to remove them. Roe versus Wade still been a controversy, and people wanting to overturn Roe versus Wade so that abortions can't be the woman's choice anymore. I think is evil, and I don't think it will happen. When a Christian of all people has a qualm with that court finding, why can't they be directed to the